Hello and welcome to my latest video. Now, as you can see on screen, two things. One, it's an all-time great, Jimmy Mclarnin from Ireland. Point two, he didn't have a massive career for his time either. One of the things about Jimmy Mclarnin's career that always amazes me is how little fights he had and what he did in that time. So let us go through the career of the great Jimmy Mclarnin. So from his 69 fight career alone, he fought an absolutely star-studded list of names. The first name on here is a Hall of Famer. The name at the bottom is a Hall of Famer. Every one of those is a champion Hall of Famer or pound for pounder, and that only scratches the surface. So Jimmy Mclarnin, I was going to say Benny Leonard. Jimmy Mclarnin fought flyweight Hall of Famer Fidel Barber on 3 occasions, scoring 2 wins with no losses and 1 draw. He also fought a trilogy, against Charles Bud Taylor, and Charles Bud Taylor amazingly won the trilogy. Many other fighters fought trilogies and didn't win them against Mclarnin, but Mclarnin scored 1 win, 2 losses and no draws. Charles Bud Taylor, a top 10 bantamweight on my all-time list, as his top 10 flyweight Pancho Villa, the great flyweight fighter who Jimmy Mclarnin also defeated. Former welterweight champion of the world, and one of the best welterweights of his time, Jackie Fields, fought Jimmy Mclarnin scoring a win, and he also scored a win over Hall of Famer Luis Kid Kaplan. Next up is the great lightweight fighter Sammy Mandel. Now, Sammy Mandel fought a trilogy against Jimmy Mclarnin. Jimmy Mclarnin won this trilogy, scoring 2 wins with 1 loss and no draw. Big shout out to all the guys in the chat: Martin Dunstan, Bruce Gass and Josh Taylor. Good to see you all. So Mclarnin, from defeating in a trilogy the great Sammy Mandel 2-1. He also fought former champion young Jack Thompson, also scoring a win, and he also gained a win over former champion Al Singer. Next up, is the excellent Lou Bruillard. Now, Bruillard actually defeated Mclarnin in their singular fight, and as you can see on here, a number of fighters beat Mclarnin, but Mclarnin also beat them back. He lost to Bud Taylor, he also beat him, he lost to Mandel, he also beat him. Lou Bruillard is the first who's beaten him and not beaten him, and other names down the list here who defeated Mclarnin, also he defeated them. So that's a bit of a claim for Lou Bruillard that he's one of Hall of Famers who Mclarnin fought, who Mclarnin didn't also beat, although he did only fight him the once. Next up is Benny Leonard, who fought Jimmy Mclarnin on his comeback, suffering a defeat, and he also scored another win over a very good name, and a name that doesn't get as much credit to many people as it should. The excellent Sammy Fuller. Jimmy Mclarnin defeated him, and then he also defeated, to me, the greatest of the young Corbetts, young Corbett III, the welterweight and middleweight Hall of Famer. Mclarnin beat him in a singular fight. And then next up, is the great Barney Ross, the former lightweight champion, light welterweight champion, and 2-time welterweight champion. Barney Ross suffered 1 defeat, Mclarnin winning him once, and Barney Ross scored 2 wins. Next up is the great Tony Canzoneri himself, the 5-time lineal champion. Canzoneri scored 1 win but also suffered 1 defeat, to Jimmy Mclarnin. And the last name on this first slide, is super tough lightweight Hall of Famer Lou Ambers, the Hermica Hurricane, who gave Armstrong those tremendously, terribly tough fights. Especially the one when Armstrong was swallowing blood for multiple rounds. They were tough fights for Armstrong, even by his own admission. Lou Ambers also fought Canzoneri as well. He was a former sparring partner to Tony Canzoneri, and he moulded into a fantastic fighter himself. So that is the first slide. That slide is full of talented fighters or all-time greats or champions. Simple as every name on that slide. He's also fought a number of trilogies. Bud Taylor, Sammy Mandel, Barney Ross. But we are not done yet. Let us crack on, on to slide 2. Now, he fought Hall of Famer Memphis Palmore, fighting to a draw. Memphis Palmore has an absolutely ridiculous career. He also defeated, the lightweight terrier, the fast and ferocious punching Sid Terrace, now in the Hall of Fame. Mclarnin beating him in a singular fight. And then his latest trilogy, this time against tough Joe Glick. Now, Mclarnin didn't lose any of these fights, scoring 3 wins from 3. to rout him in the trilogy, really. He also defeated tough contender Billy Wallace, and then also won and lost, okay, to super tough contender Ray Miller. Next up is Sergeant Sammy Baker, former pound-for-pound rated fighter in my all-time rankings. Mclarnin defeated him, and then he also scored a win over rated contender Young Nationalista. Next up, another rated opponent, okay, Joey Sangor. Jimmy Mclarnin defeated him in a singular fight, and then he lost, okay, to Johnny Farr. Next up is Johnny Lamar, okay, Mclarnin defeated him in a singular fight. He also defeated tough contender Lope Tenorio, and also defeated Phil McGraw. Next up is one of Chile's great fighters, okay, I say one of Chile's great fighters, along with Arturo Godoy and is it Antoine Fernandez, Stanislaus Loaiza, okay, who himself had a very tough career. You'll see his video. He had a very tough career. Jimmy Mclarnin beat Loaiza. He also defeated Ruby Goldstein, and then also defeated Frankie Dolan. So, not as big a names on that slide as the last slide, but still very good names like Sergeant Sammy Baker, Memphis Palmore, Sid Terrace, Glick, Loaiza, and others. So, on to his third slide, and considering he only had 69 professional fights, he goes on to his third slide in opponents. So, Doc Snell is next, okay. Jimmy Mclarnin loses to Doc Snell, a capable fighter himself. He also fights Tommy Cello on 2 occasions, going 1 win, no loss, 1 draw. And then his final trilogy, Mclarnin had a whole set of trilogies against great fighters. You know, Barney Ross, Charles Bud Taylor, Sammy Mandel, etc. This latest trilogy against Billy Patrol to close out his career, another super tough fighter, the Express, great body puncher and combination puncher, very tough fighter and a Hall of Famer. Mclarnin wins that series 2-1 with no draws. So, from only 69 fights, okay, Mclarnin has there 48 major fights, okay, including 34 wins, which is pretty much half of his entire career, 11 losses and 3 draws. And Mclarnin also accomplishes one other thing in my database that I'll point out when I get to it. So there's his, well, I'll say his basic career breakdown, but it's not a basic career in any way, shape or form. So let us jump on to the first of his stat slides. Now, Mclarnin, okay, scored 21 knockouts in his career, 15 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 6 in the first round. Now, Mclarnin scored 6 KOs against champions, 5 against Hall of Famers, and 7 against pound-for-pounders. And also Mclarnin, okay, is one of those rare fighters at the moment who has pretty much full ratings information for his whole career. Jimmy Mclarnin scored 13 knockouts against rated fighters. Now, in terms of rounds boxed, he obviously didn't have a large career, and, you know, aside from the hand problems he had, whereas if he didn't get you early, you know, he'd generally go the distance. What you find when you look at his career, a lot of the time, Mclarnin would either get him early or he'd go to points. There were obviously some other stoppages in there, but a lot of his stoppages were early, as you can see, 15 from 21 in 3 rounds or less. So after that, generally, it was a points fight, but he did have lots of problems with his hands, punched really hard. So Mclarnin fought 463 rounds, okay, he fought 46 title fight rounds, and Mclarnin fought a total of 208 rounds against champions, 222 rounds against Hall of Famers, and 282 rounds against pound-for-pound fighters. Now, Mclarnin also fought a total of 333 rounds against top 10 fighters. If you consider 333 divided into what that would average for full 12-round fights, he fought a lot of rounds against rated fighters, but still, quite a small number historically in my database, as we'll see on future videos, but fantastically well for his small career. Mclarnin, from those 333, okay, 295 of them were against top 3 rated fighters, so nearly 300 rounds against top 3 rated fighters, and Mclarnin fought 146 rounds against ring champions. So, on to the slide for champions. Mclarnin has a very decorated career. He had, in his small career, 24 fights against champions, scoring 16 wins, 7 loss, 1 draw. And when you consider one of those defeats to Patrol won a champion, 2 of those defeats to Bud Taylor, 1 of those defeats to Sammy Mandel, even many of his defeats were to Hall of Famers. So he defeated 14 individual champions. Now, those champions were a decorated list. They were Fidel LaBarba, Charles Bud Taylor, Pancho Villa, Jackie Fields, Luis Kid Kaplan, Sammy Mandel, Young Jack Thompson, Al Singer, Benny Leonard, Sammy Fuller, Young Corbett III, Barney Ross, Tony Canzoneri and Lou Ambers. What a decorated list that is. As for those 14 champions, Mclarnin scored 6 inside distance wins individually from those 14. The fighters he stopped were Jackie Fields, Louis Kid Kaplan, Al Singer, Benny Leonard, Sammy Fuller and June Corbett III. So, impressive list of champions defeated there for Mclarnin. When we go to the Hall of Fame slide, okay, we see a similar fight. Nobody had 26 fights against Hall of Famers Mclarnin, with 16 wins, 8 losses and 2 draws. Now, Jimmy Mclarnin, okay, the record number of Hall of Famers beaten is, of course, the great Harry Greb at 15, but Mclarnin, even though he had a short career, beat 13 individual Hall of Famers. They were Fidel LaBarba, Charles Bud Taylor, Pancho Villa, Jackie Fields, Louis Kid Kaplan, Sid Terris, Sammy Mandel, Billy Patrol, Benny Leonard, Young Corbett III, Barney Ross, Tony Canzoneri and Lou Ambers. And from those 13 Hall of Famers, Jimmy Mclarnin stopped 5 of them. Jackie Fields, Louis Kid Kaplan, Sid Terris, who was not a champion of course, Benny Leonard and Young Corbett III. So, on to the pound-for-pound slide. Now, some people may not realise this, well, because it's my database, so I have all the information. Makes it easier for me, obviously. But Jimmy Mclarnin, okay, he had his highest number of fights against pound-for-pounders, okay, coming in with 34 fights. So basically what that means is, for Mclarnin's entire career, okay, for half of his entire career total, he was fighting pound-for-pound fighters. I mean, that is virtually 50% nearly of all his career fighting pound-for-pounders. That is a ridiculous total. Now, Mclarnin achieves one feat in my retired database up to now. He has defeated more individual pound-for-pound fighters than any fighter in my database. Harry Greb fought bigger fight series like with Jeff Smith, Loughran, etc., etc. He fought bigger fight series and therefore had way more fights against pound-for-pounders than Mclarnin. But Mclarnin has beaten more pound-for-pound fighters individually. Okay, not wins against pound-for-pounders. Okay, but in terms of individual pound-for-pound fighters, beating Mclarnin is number 1. The 18 pound-for-pounders he beat individually were Fidel LaBarba, Charles Bud Taylor, Pancho Villa, Jackie Fields, Joe Glick, Lou Ambers, Billy Wallace, Sid Terris, Sammy Mandel, Ray Miller, Sergeant Sammy Baker, Young Jack Thompson, Billy Patrol, Benny Leonard, Sammy Fuller, Young Corbett III, Barney Ross, and Tony Canzoneri. Now, from those 18 pound-for-pounders beaten individually, Jimmy Mclarnin stopped Jackie Fields, Young Corbett III, Sid Terris, Sergeant Sammy Baker, Joe Glick, Benny Leonard, and Sammy Fuller. So he's got knockout or stoppage wins over 7 of those 18 pound-for-pounders. Mclarnin's career is stacked because for his time, you know, in a time when, you know, Rosenblum had nearly 300 fights, Greb virtually 300 fights, fighters like Jack Britton, etc. had more than that, although to be fair, Britton, you know, turned pro considerable years before Mclarnin, but he's more of an 1890-1910 kind of time he turned pro. So, you know, ultimately, but Mclarnin for a small career, okay, does incredibly well. So, on to the next slide, okay, rated opponents. Full rating information. So, from Mclarnin's 69 fights, 43 of them were against rated fighters. Mclarnin has a record of 32 wins, 10 losses, and 1 draw. And again, many of those defeats there to Bud Taylor, Patrol, Mandel, many of those defeats to Hall of Fame fighters. So, his record against top 3 rated fighters, okay, he had a massive 37 fights, including 27 wins, 9 losses and 1 draw. So basically, Mclarnin had more fights against top 3 fighters than Floyd Mayweather fought top 10 fighters. And against ring champions, he had a record of 9 wins, 5 losses, no draws from 14 fights. So, incredible numbers again for a short career. Mclarnin individually beat 27 individual rated fighters, and he scored knockouts over 13 individual rated fighters. So there's Mclarnin's rated opponent information there. When we go on to titles, he didn't have a massive title fight record. Jimmy Mclarnin had 4 title fights. He scored 2 wins, 2 losses, no draws. He made no title defences. He twice won the title and twice lost it. He did score 1 title fight KO. Jimmy Mclarnin scored 2 wins against top 10 fighters in title fights, 2 wins against top 3 fighters in title fights, and 1 win against a ring champion in a title fight. And against champions, Hall of Famers and pound for pounders, Mclarnin scored 2 wins in each of the 3 categories. So there's Mclarnin's title fight numbers there. Okay, on to titles won. Jimmy Mclarnin was a 2-time world welterweight title holder. Therefore, he was lineal welterweight champion of the world on 2 occasions, and he was also a 2-time undisputed welterweight champion. And considering Mclarnin came up from lower weights, okay, he was rated in divisions well below welterweight as well. He actually went up and then twice won the world welterweight title. So there ends an incredible video of an incredible fighter, because, you know, unlike some other fighters I've covered recently, Mclarnin doesn't have a career as big as most of the fighters I've covered recently, but his career is way deeper. Okay, way bigger names. You know, think about all them trilogies, you know, Patrol, Mandel, Bud Taylor, Glick. You know, the trilogies go on and on and on. He won most of his trilogies. He also fought an incredible array of fighters, and also that near 50% of all his career fights against pound for pounders. And, you know, that incredible tally of scoring more individual pound for pounders beaten by name than any other fighter in my retired database up to now. And I've got over 1,000 fighters in there, including most of big ones. So another incredible stat there for Mclarnin. But Jimmy Mclarnin to me is just an all-time great. Plain and simple. So there we are, people. Hope you've enjoyed this video on this fantastic fighter. You know, some of the fighters, because one of the stories before I get off you'll hear is, oh, fighters back then only fought a pile of tomato cans and taxi drivers. But Mclarnin shows, and as other fighters have shown already on video, many more to come, that is not the case. Okay, and one of the things my videos will show in the main opponent breakdowns and the information on champions, Hall of Famers, pound for pounders, and the fight totals against them, it will reveal that that is not actually the case. And actually, when you compare them to modern fighters, they are actually comparable in many ways. When you look at many percentages of fights against champions, that more goes to the alphabet era fighters. But when you look at pound for pounders and stuff like that, you know, the modern fighters don't have advantages there. They have advantages with champions because there's 17 divisions, 4 belts per division. You know, some fighters I've covered on video so far didn't even have 8 original divisions with no intermediate weights. Some fighters I've covered didn't even have 7 divisions at the time they were fighting, with only 1 champion per division. You know, now there's 68 available champions. Some guys I've covered on video only had 5 or 6 divisions at the time. So, you know, this is just the fact. But yeah, you know, so there's Mclarnin. I love this guy. I respect him immensely. He's an all-time great, a true worthy Hall of Famer. And to me, he's the greatest fighter from Ireland. He's Ireland's greatest fighter. And he comes second in UK fighters, okay, just behind the great Ted Kid Lewis himself. So there is my video on Jim Mclarnin. I'll be back tomorrow with another video, okay, and please watch out for that one. I don't know what I'll do yet, but yeah, another video coming tomorrow. So everyone take care, have a good night. I'm the Boxing Librarian, and I'm out for now.